Like, how long you been in your house?
We've been in for we moved in on April 30th. So is it a month yet? Almost a month.
Almost a month. And you
We just finished our 3rd week.
right.
Yeah.
And you still got this list of
Long list.
things you're gonna do, right?
Long list.
You thought about quitting yet? Or doing it yourself?
Oh my goodness. I thought about quitting the day we started moving.
Wow. Yeah.
So I thought it was gonna be an easy move, right? I mean, we don't have a lot of furniture. In my mind, I'm picturing the big pieces. We don't have a lot. We downsized already. And listen, on a Friday morning, I got a U-Haul truck. All my big pieces are in the truck. I'm good. At 11 o'clock a.m., I sent Ricky Jones a text message saying, bro, I got everything packed. I'm done. This moving is a breeze, right? I get back to the apartment. I walk in, and I'm like, where's all of this stuff come from? It's all the little stuff. Yeah. All of the utensils and these clothes are still in the laundry room and these books. Wow. And now it's like 2 o'clock in the morning and we're still moving little stuff. I'm trying to figure out, like, how do you package little stuff? You know what I mean? Yep. And at that point I was like, man, bump this. I'm literally like, what's the penalty of leaving this stuff in this apartment?
You start calculating.
What's the penalty of leaving this stuff in this apartment and just going to my house? So,
see, when we talk about making quit hard, we don't necessarily think about moving and utensils and things like that.
That's right. That's right.
We talk about real stuff, right?
That's right.
And real applications. Hey, we're the Blueprint Leadership Podcast, and you know our whole deal is just about sharing the Word of God, simple truths, but to a point of application. So we walk it out.
Yes, sir.
Every day, not just talk about it. And I guess today, Mr. Alex McCray dropped in on us. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Doing really good.
Good stuff. So, you know we've been on this quit thing, right? And Pastor been starting arguments in our own mind about how we're supposed to be doing stuff because they're trying to straighten some things out. So tell us, just what are you doing right now? I mean, just career-wise.
Career-wise, I'm still working at Walmart, and at Walmart we have a couple different divisions that you can work in. And so the division I'm in right now is an academy. So we have a school inside of one of the stores here in Brandon, and that store services about 27 stores in the area. And we train leaders that are hourly, we train salaried managers, people that are newly promoted, people that just came to the company, retail fundamentals, leadership principles, a lot of different things that we teach and train. And we have a pretty nice school there, so we're doing pretty good.
Okay. How long you been there?
Been with Walmart almost 7 years, so it'll be 7 in July. So I was a manager in a store for 3 years, and then from there I moved into the academy, and now I'm teaching managers.
Wow, 7 years.
Yeah, almost 7 years.
I know that's long
Man,
enough.
it seems longer than that.
I know that's long enough to
7 years.
face quit, though, ain't it?
Oh, come on. Man, come on.
We got to be topical now.
Yeah, this is there was many opportunities to quit. I'll tell you that right now. Because whenever you make a decision, especially transitioning from one career to another, there's a lot of things that go into that. And so usually it all seems like rainbows, right? It's all perfect, utopia, it's gonna be great. And then you're gonna hit a snag. Yeah. You're gonna hit a snag at some point. And for me, I would say probably about 6 months in. It was about 6 months in after the decision. Everything was great. I had an opportunity to build a store from the ground up. So we picked all of our associates. We had a great relationship with everybody. We started the store. It was beautiful. Then about 6 months in, it got tough. Wow. It was real. This is
most people, that'll throw most people. You know, brand new career and all that, like 6 months.
Yeah.
Right. So what do you think? Like, what's the shortest period, like you've been in something where quit kind of snuck in your head?
The shortest period that I've been in something that quit came into my head. Now, you mean like career-wise?
No.
You mean like just
whatever you said.
Oh man,
quit snuck.
Probably something that a lot of people can relate to, right? Is as happy as I was walking around IKEA, right? Wow. Just looking at the display, thinking like this is it, Brought home a cabinet, like, man, you know, allocated in my mind, which should have been the appropriate time to put this thing together. Open up the instruction manual, and before I even put a hand on a piece, right, I opened up, first of all, to be honest, quit started to enter my mind when, because you know at IKEA, you have to go around to the aisle when you hit your boxes, right? I was saying to myself, how did they get that cabinet down to a box this big, right? And I was thinking, interesting, but I don't know what's in this box, right? But, of course, to be revealed, get home, right? Open up the box, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
This doesn't even resemble. Right. So my next thought is, I remember seeing the signs walking out, right? You can call one of the IKEA people. They can come out and put it together. Yep. You know, I'm thinking to myself, man, that sounds like quit.
Right.
And so you know.
And it was easy at that point. Just pick up the phone.
Just pick up the phone. Yeah. But you know, I can say this. I've been back since. Okay. And it's something about it. But every time you got to that same quit spot when all the pieces come out the box. Right. And you're looking there at the floor.
Because when you teach it, right, you know that. You know, you be going somewhere, right? And you're trying to take us to a place, but you know that pride be up like, no, I'm not a quitter. I'm not a quit. No, there's plenty of situations where quit sneak in.
Listen, like, okay, am I gonna make this phone call or not? Right? You know, and which is funny because that's a lot like life, right? Yeah. You're just walking around the store picking things up based on like the finished product and the way it looks, and then you have to go around and pick up all the pieces that bring it together, and decide, am I gonna be willing to like take the time it takes to put this thing together, right? But that's
because these pieces don't look like the finished product.
These pieces don't look like the finished product, right? That's
and that is it is because that finished product piece, good Lord. So I might hold a record when it comes to, say, career-wise, right? Yeah. Quit snuck up on me the fastest in my career. Quit snuck up on me 8 hours into a new job.
Wow.
8 hours?
By the time I got ready to leave day one, I knew. Wow. In the back of my mind, as I'm walking to my car, it was like, I don't ever want to come back.
That's rough.
That might be the record.
That might be the record. You left orientation and you ready to go.
Well, I'm just saying, people think, that's down the road, I'm going to have to figure out how to deal with. No, bro. That could be day one.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Because you talk about unfavorable circumstances. You look around and be like, oh, Lord, no. This is not the one.
And sometimes quit can happen before you start.
Oh,
so when you were talking about IKEA, we bought, like this 4-cube thing. This was years ago. This was probably maybe 5 years ago, 5-6 years ago. So we got the cube, and then there were the drawers, right? So you get little drawers. That pack is so thin, right? Yeah. Put the cubes together, got to those drawers. I'm like, these instructions ain't making, like, I don't know if this is still over in whatever, Sweden or wherever the company's based. Like, all right, so I'm just put it to the side. Yeah. I'm going to come back later.
Yeah.
I come back later, I'm like, still looks about the same. Like, I had a set of drawers that I had opened the plastic. Yeah. That ended up going in the trash. The other set of drawers stayed in the plastic for years. I'm talking, I just used the cubes, and when it got some little, those collapsible cube, made
it work.
And so it wasn't until maybe 2 years ago, I just took it to the Goodwill. I'm like, you can take time to build these. I'm done. I done moved on.
Here's the drawers. Wow. So moved on. Yeah. But now you're right though, as far as that real life stuff, because when and I know you get it because you up there trying to bring us revelation, and we looking back at you with question marks, like, whoa, what exactly does that mean? Now, you're in position, though, to where I know at one point you had people reporting to you, but now you're training people.
Right.
So I know you see quit all over people.
All the time.
And have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So all the things that Pastor's sharing with us, I mean, how do you see some of that play out and how you have to use these principles that he's teaching us in actually you're responsible for building and growing these people?
That's a good question because, when you're dealing with an adult, right? Because all of my learners are adults. I don't deal with kids.
Right. And so, what did that say about dope?
Can't raise
them. Can't tell them what to do. You just can't.
Yep.
And so there's a part that I play in trying to encourage people over that quit hump, you know, because some of their quit pressure comes from their managers, because they're in other stores, they have management teams, and there is a component of what we teach and train where we're teaching them, but we also teach their manager at another class. So I'm in that middle point where I'm saying, hey, be encouraged, take what I'm telling you, do this. And they're saying, well, my manager doesn't let me do this and tells me to do this. We'll be teaching them in the next class. Just hold on, you know, because people are making career changes to come to my company, maybe for wages. You know, they're leaving where they were before because they can find a better opportunity. And they find out real quick that maybe it's not all about money. Like, things have to be in order. Things have to be in a place where they can succeed. And so trying to encourage them through that point so we don't lose good talent it can be challenging. Because you can see, you know, there's people that are really assets to the company, but the people they report to are just, you know, quenching that fire. They're just, you know, discouraging them. So they come to our classes and we're trying to pump them back up. Hey, you can do it. Hold on. You know, there's a new company initiative that's coming out. Just wait. It's going to get better, you know? Because some people quit before something gets better. You know, the thing they've been crying out for so many years finally is on the horizon, and they miss out on it.
You know, you mentioned, so one of you had a truth is about growth, about your growth over what's profitable. Well, what was that one?
Yeah, you know, and really to do with this truth is, are you willing, right? So a lot of the truth is we start off with questions, and which just reminds me of what we were just saying, right? You can't raise grown folks, you can't tell them what to do. And so the reason why even we started with questions is because, you know, the right question can spark the right train of thinking. The right pathway, right? I can't tell you what to do. I could try. But the goal is to maybe expose you to something. And the best exposure is self-exposure, right? You know, I love what the Bible says, right? The prodigal son, he came to himself, right? He came to himself. And I believe that's the goal in all of it for you. I don't think you come to yourself by yourself. I think you hear God calling you from within yourself. You know, but what I'm simply saying is, right, those right questions can spark the right train of thinking, the right pathway of thinking that can start that argument with quit, right? And so it's like that one was just to say, hey, are you willing to value something greater? You know, are you willing to value your growth over what may be profitable for your progress? Right? And it's simply saying, right, a lot of times that is the point of quit. The point of quit, you know, when, hey, you're getting paid, great. But at the end of the day, like, I just don't like the environment. And a lot of times the decision you're making, and that's the part that I always love to pull out, people think is you're deciding whether to quit or not quit. No, that's never really what you're deciding. What you are shifting is your values concerning something. And a lot of times quit is at the point of where, I'm valuing what's profitable for my progress over what's necessary for my growth. And whenever you say, man, I'm going to go in the direction of what's necessary for my growth, it normally will quench the fire of quit, because you're saying, yeah, this may not be profitable for my progress, right? But this most definitely is a necessary lesson for my growth. I know we were sharing the story about the houses. And absolutely, right? You know, the lesson that I was sharing was profitable for it was necessary for my growth. I learned a new level of how to review something, but man, it was not a forward move. It was not profitable for my progress. Like that, like, and the thought is, well, bump it all. I'm just gonna quit on all of it. Like, bump it all.
Let's quit again.
There goes quit, right? Just bump it. Let's just stop. Let's stop everything. But no, I already know, and that's the part, right? I have to take away from that. You know what? It was necessary for my growth, because the scale was this big. Imagine if the scale was the whole house. Right. And so as hard as it burns, it was necessary for my growth.
And that's like ties in, I mean, with what you do. necessary for their growth. I mean, that's literally what you're trying to do, is grow people. But it's not for some small thing. As you said, we're talking life. We're talking their livelihood, their family. And, I mean, do you establish, like, that deeper level of value to try to get them to see that, in this case, this is profitable for your growth? Don't just quit one place just because of what they pay.
Yeah.
You find yourself having to deal with that?
Sometimes, because you have people that are making choices for so many different reasons. So many. I mean, it could be they made a choice to come to the company because it was beneficial to their family in the moment, just in the moment. I made an extra $1. I made an extra $2 right today. And then there's other people that are planning to build a career. And I ask those type of questions like, what do you want to do next? What do you want to do in the next couple of years? Do you want to be this manager? Do you want to be in this position? And some people are good where they are. And some people are, I want to do this next. They're eager. And for most of them, they have to figure out the why. Why are they doing what they're doing?
Right.
And until they can locate that why, I can be talking until I'm blue in the face.
Yeah.
So let me ask this question and push it even further. Have you been from your position, have you been in a situation where you see a person and you're like, them attending this class, them sticking through it is good for their growth, but it may not, because you're also balancing what's profitable for the company that you have been employed.
Correct.
Right? So it may be good for their growth to stick through this, but it may not be profitable for the company. Have you had to look at things through, or what does that do to your, I guess that's like a personal integrity thing. Like do I keep this person in this
what
class?
What do you take? Right. Yeah.
Even though I don't think this person is profitable for this company.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, the role that I play in that person's life at that moment is to be a trainer, in a sense, depending on what the processes are, what we're talking about. It could just be leading by example. Hey, this is what you can do in the company. This is the journey I've taken.
Okay.
Because I'm not their direct manager. I'm not having to make those kind of judgment calls in the moment to say, is this person an asset to the company?
Right.
Because the truth is, at the end of the day, there's going to be people at different stages of their career that in the beginning, they're not an asset. You are a liability. We're bringing you along. And until we can get you trained and have that upskilling with your abilities, you're a liability. But eventually, over time, they get to that point to where they are catching on to the process. They're being consistent in what's going on. They're adding value to the company.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to dive in right there, right? Because you just said something that I believe, is so rich and it's so good. And what I pull out of this, there's a layering to that evaluation. There's a layering to that evaluation, right? Talking about profitable for overall progress, right? Yeah. It's not always good to evaluate at the same time, whether or not this person, or even the same person, do the evaluation of whether or not, hey, should we get rid of this person or keep this person, based upon what they mean to us. For that to be the same person that's like there to teach them, right? Like, that's not a good shared role to have, right? Because there is that time period where, like you say, eight hours in, I'm ready to go, right? There is this time period where quit is real.
Yeah.
Right? And I know in our last episode we defined, right? Quit is in the room anytime pressure and purpose are in the room.
Right.
When pressure and purpose share the same space, quit is available. And so I think it would be cool if you could just share a little bit about why, like, those aren't in the same space, right? Why it's like, nah, I'm here to train you. I'm here to equip you. Your manager can evaluate whether it's been too much or not enough, right? But I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. Like, how has that been? Either, I'm just gonna say it a different way. How's that been healthy for your interactions? To just say, hey, I'm just doing this part. And how have you seen that just benefit the ecosystem overall for it to be different?
I think that, from the part that I play in that person's life, it's good that there's a separation. Because you can have, a biased approach towards that a person if you are the trainer and the evaluator at the end of it. And that's not necessarily healthy for them. And for me, I have to make sure I play the role that I'm there to play. You know what I'm saying? So whether you're in sports, you're going to have your coach, you're going to have your trainers, you're going to have all these people that help us win the championship at the end of the year.
Right.
And knowing that, hey, if I'm the trainer, if I'm the person teaching and training you, or at least exposing you to what the best approach would be, I need to make sure I'm not the head coach at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's healthy for both of us to maintain the different spaces that we're in, so that throughout the year, every manager is going to do your mid-evaluations, mid-year evaluations, your yearly evaluations, and they're going to be able to monitor and measure the progress that person has had throughout the year. The part I play is to help you be equipped. Now, once you leave, you're going to have to go now to that you're grown. And because you're grown, you have to take the notes. You have to take the conversations we've had. You have to take the exposure, the experiences that I've shown you, and now put it into practice.
So I want to throw something at the table. I'm not going to throw it all on Alex. This might take group discussion, because I see something really good here. Right? Where, let's say a person, now Walmart, right? I mean, this is proven, right? So let's not. I'm just saying that's for anybody trying to say, well, it's Walmart. That's just Walmart. No. Walmart is, if not the biggest retailer, right, brick and mortar in the world. Right? So I think they kind of gotta know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
Yep.
And when it came down for this process, they decided, no, let's structure it this way for long-term growth. This is just better. But we know we're probably talking to people who aren't Walmart size.
Right.
But what I do think could be very, very instrumental, how can we speak to someone who, okay, you're the CEO, you're whoever that is, right? You're the boss, and you're having to be that same person. You are the same person. Like, what can we share with them to say, how could you separate those roles?
And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because as he was talking, everybody isn't structured that way. You're exactly right. And I've been in those situations where it's not that there's not clear separation, right? Because you can say basically training belongs to either HR or the development part of your business, and then the coaching and managing, it belongs to production, right? But in certain situations, there are management positions to where you do the evaluations, but you also have to, manage the people. And so from that standpoint, it kind of goes back to understanding your role, making sure expectations are set, and keeping that whole big picture in mind. Because as that manager, and I know we have leaders of all aspects, in our audience, and like you said, some business owners themselves. But I had to really develop and mature and learn as a leader how that I was a resource for helping this person succeed, right? But having them make sure they understand how this company, this environment, had defined success. So set appropriate expectations. This is what success looks like. Now, I'm going to do everything I can, provide all the resources to help you get here. But now, when you said it, your first word, I think, was willing. You said that too. So that person, even in their signing on to your business or your company, that person has signed on to, this is what they said they agree, they're willing to do. So once you have those expectations, then it's my job as a leader to give you every resource possible to help you succeed. Right? And so as I'm doing that, and I have a specific example that came to mind while you were talking. I was managing a sales team one time, a huge sales team, but I had this one young man that he was not meeting the expectations, and he was pretty much heading down a path that was not going to end well. So first, I had to make sure that he understood that he understood the expectations clearly, and then my role in trying to help him get there. Now, I couldn't force him, but one of the things I did, as I pray about all the situations and how to handle them, and the Holy Spirit told me to take this approach, but it was about value, because I had a conversation with him about what was important to him, what he valued. It was all about his family, right? It's all about his family. He's not meeting expectations, so, this is not looking good right now. So he was going to look, to your previous point, he's going to look somewhere else to see if he can make more money to better take care of his family. So I'm like, okay, money is not the problem right here, because if you go somewhere else and don't meet expectations, it's going to be the same thing. So what I did was literally break down his job. He was suffering on the sales end. Broke down his job product by product and said, here's what the expectation is. Here's what this will bring you financially. You have to sell 5 of these, this is how much you make. Sell 10 of these, this is how much you make. So I had to line up the expectation of what he was to do with the true value that meant something to him, was taking care of his family.
Exactly.
So if you're meeting all these expectations, do you know you make enough money to take care of your family?
Yep.
And it was just like duh. He's like, so he couldn't see the value.
Yeah.
And that's when you were expressing that, he couldn't see the value in what he was being asked to do and what that end result would look like for him. Until I helped him see that picture. Man, that dude started knocking sales out the box. He saw the value. He saw that what was important to him could be taken care of by him doing these expectations. He probably still working for that company.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it really is something where, again, you have to look at, the whole individual, but you also have to understand that, people will have to measure the value of what's important to them. And how do you help them see that to help them succeed?
And kind of meeting them where they are, right? So
exactly.
If this is what matters to you, all right, let's see how we can work out a system where you can be successful and meet the expectation of the company.
Right.
But we can also, satisfy that value and the need that you have in your life. And Pastor Brian, to your point, if there's a leader that's, operating a company that maybe is not that large, as a Walmart or any other major, corporation like that, there's always going to be the hiring process of getting the right talent into the building.
Yeah.
And then once that right talent is in the building, finding out what are your expectations of that employee. If you just say, hey, welcome to the company, and they say, all right, what do you want me to do? And you're like, I don't know, I just wanted to bring you on board.
Right.
Well, okay,
right.
We're both failing each other.
Exactly.
So as a leader, there's always going to be some component of training, some component of laying out the expectations, and saying, okay, how do we meet these expectations? This is what I need from you, and this is what you can expect from me. There's a two-way street.
Exactly.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be as scaled up as like a training facility or a training arm of the company, but starting with the basics of, here's the expectations that I'm needing from you to grow this business.
Right.
Here's what you can expect from me. Now, granted, you're going to get your paycheck. That's one expectation. That's going to show up. But there's also going to need to be support. There's going to need to be resources that employee might need.
Right.
There might be that training. Maybe I give you some hands-on training personally, or maybe I have you shadow one of my, all-star employees.
Correct.
Whatever is needed to get that person from ground A all the way up. Then they can do that without a training arm necessarily of their company.
Right.
It's just the time to invest in that person.
Right.
And that's where
so
it
you're saying a lot of good stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that, and I just see it in that pie of like a lot of people who are starting businesses, a lot of people just kind of on the level. And it's like, you just said something on the tail end there where you said, well, have you identified your star employees? Right? Have you identified that? And what you do you have a person where you say, man, that person is really checking all the boxes?
Right.
Because a way of training, because if, and I'm just imagining these worlds, right? A lot of people who are running the business, a part of the business, their hands are to the plow. It's almost like, man, to even consider having a training session, I don't even have time for a training session.
Right.
But man, if you have identified an all-star staff member, even if your staff is just 5 people or less than that, that is great training. Pair this person with that person.
Exactly.
You may not have time to be like, man, we don't have time, to sit down and have an hour-long training session. We got to lay some tile.
Right. Exactly.
And another thing you said at the beginning when you was talking about, like, I was like, man, it's so great, right? You have to make sure you have the right people.
Yeah.
Did you hire who you believe in, or did you hire somebody that you just seen if they can do it? Right. Because when you hit that training process, you want, as a trainer, I know for myself, I actually never carry an expectation that the person listening to me doesn't want to do what I'm saying. Now, they may not.
Right.
But I can't approach it as if they don't. Right? Like my expectation behind the words that I'm speaking is that you want to hear them. and you want to do them, and we're both excited about what's going to happen next.
Right.
I'm bringing that energy to the table.
True.
And because I believe in you, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, they can't honestly check that first box. And that's what makes it hard to deal with that quitting point, because you don't actually believe in this person.
Yeah.
Now, so
in those situations, go ahead.
Can the coach and the hatchet man be the same person? Because it sounds like, so you're a coach. And
that's the question I was getting to, right? That's the question I was getting to, is like,
you know what, you can though. You can, but there's a lot of, and when we talk about leadership, there's a lot of development necessary in understanding that, and there's a lot of legwork done, for that. One of my underlying rules from a leadership standpoint is take all the excuses away. And that applies in various ways depending on the situation. But basically that means I'm breaking everything down to the lowest degree for you. Go back to your point, willing. You said that your preconception is that they're willing to do what you said.
I remember that one, will versus skill.
Will versus skill.
That was one of our first
will versus skill.
Deacon Will sessions. Will versus skill. Like,
my role as a leader is to get you to that point.
Yeah, very true.
Your decisions are going to be will versus skill. Now, I'm going to fill you with resources. Me, the leader, me, the company, I have that responsibility. I cannot force you. But if I do all of this stuff to make sure that you're well equipped and well supplied, and I love the way when you stated the one that says, "Are you willing?" Many of your questions started with, "Are you willing?"
No, they
because I can't control that part, right? When everything is like, when you understand the expectation. When all of the effort that is owed to you, the support that's owed to you is given to you. I can check all the boxes, even if I'm that same person, right? I can check all those boxes and say all these things are taking place. Only thing I cannot control is that will. That's up to you. So that's a very well-developed leader to recognize that, because there's a lot of groundwork in that. When I say supply you all the resources, I don't mean that lightly, because you talk about the training. When you say, I'm doing all this work, I don't have time to train. I like to hit people with questions like, what will happen if you train? So of course, they'll be great, be great employees, but I don't have time for that. I say, okay, what will happen if you don't?
Right.
People don't ask that question often.
Right.
What will happen if you don't train? And so, to your point, be creative to train. Don't just be locked in that this is the only way to do it, or this takes all of my time. But it can be in one person, but you have to be willing on this side to do all that legwork. You got to lay those expectations out. You got to make sure they understand that. You got to train them properly. You have to equip them. And then when the time comes and you can check all those boxes, then it's just the will issue.
And I saw this, right? And I said, man, this is very practical way for someone on that level to get training involved. And what he did was once a month, instead of his staff members, which he only had 3 of them, instead of them actually driving to the site, once a month he picked them up from home. And when he would pick them up, the time he spent driving, now that day cost him early. He had to wake up earlier.
Correct.
Because it wasn't at their expense.
Correct.
But at his expense, he woke up earlier. I'll drive and get him. And when I get him, one by one, he was having sessions as they were going to work, right?
Absolutely.
And then when they all got together, it became a group session, right? And just as simply said, I would play podcasts, leadership podcasts, and they would know once a month, this is how the training works.
That's good.
And because they all rode together, they would have lunch together. And so it was just a way to create a hybrid of saying, man, I don't have that to that excuse. I don't have the time.
Right.
No, you have to make the time.
Correct.
And it's actually a lot more, when you think about it practically, like, no, he's like, there's only 3 of them. So once a month, I went and picked them up.
And you have to be creative about making the time. And I'm going to throw this at you because I know you have to be creative in some situations. But, we've worked together before. And there's some different things. You're right. When you have, many employees, but just in connections, how important it is to stay connected to people because, we're all about building relationships. And in a successful situation, it's going to be based on relationships. So, the first sometimes depending on the situation, the first 30 minutes of my day, right, literally clocked in my head. The first 30 minutes of my day would literally be walking around the environment, right? Office to office, desk to desk. You know, I may just come and say, hey, you know, and tell you, hey, or just have a quick little conversation or whatever. And people are like, oh, you know, well, I guess, you know, he the boss, he can do whatever he want to do or whatever. No, that is part of my design, building relationship tactics, you know, and just being creative about how you check those things off that you know you need to do. Now, you literally have to train not just the people, but managers as well. What kind of creative things do you have you tried or offered them to be more effective leaders?
Well, similar to what you just said, the walking around. This is something that Sam Walton started years ago called coaching by walking around.
Exactly.
He originally called it managing by walking around, and they evolved it into coaching by walking around. And the idea behind it was take those first 30 minutes of your shift as a manager, walk around, get to know your people. It wasn't to give direction. Yeah. It wasn't to say that's wrong, fix that. It was just to get to know your people. So that's kind of the thing we continue to establish even to this day. Right. Because if those managers aren't making the connections, aren't building the relationships with their team, then it really doesn't matter what you're trying to accomplish. You have direction, you're top heavy with all the direction and expectations, but you have no relationship, no foundation to get those expectations across. Right. And so, you know, that's how we kind of approach it from a leadership standpoint. You got to get to know your people. How in the world can you even go to the point of accountability? How can you get to that point if you don't even know that person? Right. You know, so say, for example, a person is breaking a company policy. Okay, they broke a company policy. Let's talk. What's going on? Now, I'm going to have to still go through the HR portion of you breaking a policy. Right. But if we don't have a conversation, you could be breaking it again tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after, and then we lose talent. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
So I want to pull this out. You just said something, right? You know, I always thinking big billboard terms, right? And what you just said, if I were to put in billboard, was accountability is the byproduct of relationship. Yep. Accountability is like.
That's good.
If you're looking for, I don't forgot my word.
Accountability
is the byproduct of relationship.
Yep.
If you're looking for accountability to go up, relationship has to go up with it.
Exactly.
Right? They're together.
Yeah. Because in the way I've been kind of redefining that word, because even accountability can sometimes have a negative connotation. Right? It's like, but really the accountability is responsibility. Yeah. And the reason why I say that, I'm not really holding you accountable like there's some consequence per se, but I'm reminding you of your responsibility. You signed up for this. You decided to be a part of this team. Let me remind you of what that commitment looks like. Yeah. So
that's so funny because I just had somebody tell me that responsibility has a negative connotation. It's like people trying to push back on everything.
Because it really depends on who's using it and how they're using it, right? So if I use accountability like I'm just gonna hold you accountable. Yeah. Well, that don't sound happy. That don't sound positive. It sounds negative. It sounds like a weapon.
It sounds like a weapon.
But if we're talking about accountability in the sense of I'm going to hold myself accountable, you need to hold yourself accountable. Now, because I might be the person in authority, then there might be a conversation that I'm going to initiate, but I'm here to remind you. You signed up. There was a day and time where you were not an employee. You signed up on the dotted line and became one. On that day, you signed up for a responsibility. Let me remind you of that. Now, going to Deacon Will's point, if it is skill, okay, we can work on skill. We can teach and train and exposure, all those things to help you develop.
We brought you here.
We're talking about Will. Now we're at a place where we're dealing with your want to. We're dealing with the thing that motivates you to do what you do. Now, if that motivation is not at a level that's going to help you become an asset to this company, that's why we have conversations. Let's go ahead and have this conversation. But most people, I would venture to say that are with companies or with or employed somewhere want to do a good job.
Right.
I would say the mass majority of people who wake up every morning don't wake up plotting and planning on how to destroy the company. I'm just going to do terrible today. So with that being the foundation of we know you want to do a good job, but are you equipped to do a good job? And if you're equipped to do a good job and you're still not, why?
Right.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Sometimes it could be, personal issues. It could be things going on at home that's distracting them from their commitment. Or it could be various reasons. I mean, you'd almost have to go to a psychologist to figure it out sometimes.
Right. So when you see this walked out, right? When you say something like, I know we got kind of deep on it, but this is the message series that the reason you put it out there was to make quit hard.
Right.
So when you talk about making quit hard we're talking a corporate setting, right? Could be your small business and you actually being a leader. From a people standpoint, these are the kind of things that make quit hard. You said it. Accountability brings...
Relationship is a byproduct of accountability.
Byproduct of accountability. Yeah. So when you said, look, here's what I'm going to do. The reciprocal effect of you being accountable to them brings about that reverse. It takes time, it takes willingness on your part, on the leader's part.
Right.
But when you put it out there, it comes back.
Yeah.
And so when I'm working for you and you're working for me, not every little thing that quit brings into my mind becomes the most important thing.
Right.
Because now we have a relationship. We have value toward each other.
Yeah.
And I would say, when I was listening to Alex talk, right, and he said, man, just pretty much drawing the picture of accountability being a two-way street. It's like almost, if I were to say the goal, just listening to him is like the goal of all the relationships and the goal of all of the building, the accountability, is to get someone to a point where they don't feel like, if they ever were to quit, they don't feel like they're quitting the job. They feel like they're quitting on you.
Absolutely.
That's a good point.
Absolutely.
Right?
Very good point.
It's like if I can grow you to the point, there's enough dual accountability to where I don't feel like I'm quitting this job. I feel like I'm quitting on you.
Right.
Then like relationship was fostered, which kind of brings me back to a moment. Alex, he just changed how we interact, right? He used to be up here 9 to 5,
right?
But he's still here, right? He's here now, right? And we're getting so much fruit from the transition he made.
Yeah.
But I still remember, right, the moment when Alex was like, "Hey, it's time for that transition," and what was so awesome about it was the conversation he had with me, and it just never. It was. We just had locked arms in what we were doing.
Yeah.
And he just came and said, man, Brian, he was like, man, I believe this is what God wants me to do. We all knew it. Like, oh, man, this is awesome, Alex. And he's like, man, he said, I'm just going to miss moving these things forward with you. And it just had grown. It wasn't, there was relationships. And I'm saying, like, so it wasn't like, some people are like, oh, man, you quitting on them. Not like, not in a dramatic way, but there was like, man, we have grown together to the point to where, like, even in the transition, I feel like we should all have a conversation, so that we know, like, hey, man, we're all good, we're all great. I'm not, I don't want there to feel like, because it grows to the point where, like, I'm not just leaving a job, man. These are people here that I've grown with, and I believe that's the fruit, right? How do I know that, I've created a great culture, created an awesome environment that even in transition or whatever it may be, people don't feel like they're leaving a job. They feel like they're leaving people.
They
don't feel like they're, and when quit comes to their mind, that's where one of the truth is, where are you willing to stop seeing people as resources and start seeing them as answers to the prayers you prayed. And I believe that that's just there to really, like you say, prompt you to start thinking thoughts in the right direction, which are, wait a minute, these people are answer to the prayers I've prayed, right? They're like, at some point, quit becomes easy when you just start seeing people as resources, and see them as just how you get to a solution, and stop seeing them as, man, God, I prayed to get somewhere, and you had to bring people around me, and when the people around you stop becoming answers to the prayers you prayed, man, you'll that's like the breeding ground for just a callous person.
Exactly.
And
I was thinking when you were talking about that, the picture I had in my mind was somebody who starts a job, right?
Yeah.
They prayed to God to get a job.
Yeah.
God opens that door, and they get there, and because things aren't going the way they want it to go, they're like, I'm out of here. And they whether they have a badge or they're like, I'm just throw my badge on the tail, I'm out of here. And forget that, they might have been a resource to give you, money every week or every 2 weeks. But you have to go back to the origin.
Yeah.
You prayed for this.
Yeah.
God opened the door. This was an answer to prayer. What are you quitting so fast on what God provided for you? And I think to your point, it always starts with, you have to start with God first.
Yeah.
If you don't start with that prayer part first, you won't necessarily see it the right way. You're going to see it skewed.
Yeah.
You're not going to see this as an answer to prayer. You're going to see this as, whatever, I'm just going to get another job, or I'm just going to get another ministry. I'm just going to get another whatever.
Right.
Whether it's a wife, whether it's a husband.
Right.
But if you go back to the origin story, when you prayed for that wife or that husband, like, man, I believe this is the one for me. God put this on my heart.
Yeah.
Well, you don't just toss that to the wind to go get another one, right?
And I do kind of want to say this, right? Because I believe it's a good point to insert it. Sometimes as Christians, we believe in the false narrative too much, right? And what I mean by that is I would say, man, you're dealing with, and we all deal with people that aren't might not even necessarily be saved.
Right.
But the likelihood of them believing that there is a God who is orchestrating this is very high.
Yeah.
Right? There's a very small percentage of people who actually disbelieve in God. Right? They may not follow your religious preferences, but they believe in some way that God is a part of my good. God is a part of moving forward, right? That they believe in prayer. And that's the reason why I say, it's not to let ourselves think that, oh man, that's a Christian principle. No.
Right.
There are people who may not even be Christians, right? That they will say they believe that working at Walmart, man, God made this happen.
For real.
Right.
For real.
And
Exactly.
if you can just keep them in that posture, that it's like, man, no, God made this happen for you, right? That's not a Christian statement. That's not me pushing your religious beliefs on you. No, like I say, the chances of you finding someone who does not believe in God is slim to none, right? There's always some type of coming to, is what I'm saying, where it's like, no, at some point you believed for this.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. That's so powerful. And just the fact that you're here, we got another one next week. So I think this is a good place to cap this one. But, just reminder of that last truth is, and what we're talking about right now is, are you willing to stop seeing people as resources or solutions to the goals you have and start seeing them as answers to the prayers you prayed? Now, if you think about this table, if God was just replaying it, you and your family started a ministry that one of the key values in the ministry is to build leaders. Ours developed through corporate and all the other resources that God gave me. And my prayer was to be in a position to be able to build leaders. You and I worked together for a while, where I poured into you. You are now in a position as a leader, literally building other leaders. Everything about what you see right now is answer to prayer. So when you listen to the remainder of this message, so you got a few more weeks, right?
Yes, sir.
Pastor Brian's in the middle of a sermon series that we call Till Death Do Us Part. But as you can see, we're trying to make quit hard in the realest way possible. Take the simple truths of this word and apply it to everyday life. And you're looking at results of what that looks like. So make sure that you plug in the Revealing Truth Ministry so you don't miss the rest of this message. And the good thing about it is, as we're looking at every aspect of real life, there may be something that touches you that you want to share with us. Hey, by all means, drop it in the comments, send us a message, because we love chopping it up like this to help close that gap between what you hear and putting it in real life. But we need you to be the part of this as well. We want to know what God is showing you. Hey, you could be sitting right there next week. So, Alex, thanks, man, for dropping there with us.
Yeah, thank you for
helping us. Oh, yeah. We'll be back next week. You be back here with us on the Blueprint Leadership Podcast.